Joining me on the program now, though, is Managing Director from cv.co.nz, Tom O'Neill. Tom, kia ora. Good morning. Thanks for your time.
Kia ora, my friend. Always great to be back.
Well, it is nice to be talking to you as well. Now, let's role play a little bit here. Okay, our CV's great. We've got a cover letter sorted. It is so good and impressive that we've been called in for an interview. And perhaps thinking about the sorts of questions that we might be asked in an interview, because it really comes down to this. You know, there's us and some other candidates. Whoever answers the questions best is probably the one that's going to get the job. It's down to the wire on this one. And hey, look, some questions are easy enough to answer. What's your name? What sort of things are you interested in? But the ones that I really dread, the one that I consider to be the tough questions, are the ones that that start with a situation, as it were. Describe a situation where you may have shown leadership qualities, all that sort of stuff. Really the sort of things that you need to answer on the hoof. These are the ones that a lot of people dread in an interview situation.
Honestly, they're horrific. The point on it. End of the day, you know, we suddenly, unless you've done some pre-work, we have to really suddenly think of, gee, my 20 years experience in my field. Do a quick scan mentally and come up with this perfect answer. They are really tricky.
And not only the perfect answer, but an answer which is measurably better than any of the answers that the other candidates are going to give. That's where the pressure is on. Is it the situation that the interviewer wants to know the answer, or do they just want to see you sweat under pressure by asking you tough questions and watch you while you try and think some stuff up?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think generally, you know, when I've been using behavioural questions, these are the ones that demand an example. You rate a person 0 to 5. 0, no experience at all. They said, I'm sorry, don't have an answer. All the way through to 5, which is a great answer, lots of explanations and really, you know, tangible outcomes. And so sitting down, I'd do, let's say, 8 questions. And at the end, you know, you got to mark out of 40. So they are wonderful to see how people deal with pressure. But certainly you're wanting to get to the nub of actually what the question's about in terms of leadership or project management or developing some new systems or innovative thinking, etc.
8 questions, 8 situational questions. Is that what we should expect? Is that the way an interview is likely to go, that it's likely to be the situational behavioural questions that are likely to be the tipping point for whether you're in or out?
So normally, for generally speaking, for roles up to, let's say, 100K, you'd sort of have some generic ones like, you know, tell me about yourself, what do you know about the company, all that sort of stuff, and maybe 2, 3 popped in near the end. Then at the second interview, be looking to probably have another 3 or 4. If you're a senior executive, pretty much get into it straight away. You know, there's, you know, some basic nicety type questions at the start, but pretty much just getting into it. So if I was interviewing a CFO, CEO, I'd be, you know, a good hour just battering them with behavioural questions.
It is a bit of a battering. And the tricky thing, I suppose, is is it possible to prepare well for behavioural situational questions, or is the very nature of them that they tend to come from left field? Can we predict the sort of questions we might get in an interview?
Yeah, no, great question, mate. A really great way to sort of get some idea on what's going to be asked is looking at the job description. Now, at the end of the job description, obviously, they've got the ideal candidate competencies. And they'll talk about strong knowledge of, let's say, MYOB, a passion for the marine industry, innovative thinking, you know. So all you do is go and tell me about a time when you pop it at the front. When the time that you had to learn new software, use MYOB. Tell me about a time you had to use innovative thinking. Tell me about a time you had to have conflict. How did you manage that conflict? You know, and so really looking at the job description, those responsibilities, and particularly at the end, those aspects around what they're seeking, just whack. Give an example of a time when you and that'll start to give you a bit of a bead on what will be asked.
That is smart stuff, actually. If we can put ourselves into that situation and try. Look, it doesn't guarantee, of course, that those are exactly the questions they're going to ask. But it kind of puts us in that situation where we can almost role play what it might be like and pre-prepare some of those answers so we're not like that rabbit in the headlights when they ask a question and we're trying to think of something.
Yeah, I've had that before. I was asked, when change management was the first, the thing that came out a number of years ago. And then I was asked, do you have any change management experience? I looked at the person and went, no. Driving home, it came up with like 40 instances of change management. So it's about the preparation.
Yeah, exactly.
And in that, it's about thinking of what I like to think, I call them diamonds. You have a diamond, a diamond's got 30 facets on that diamond. So you've got one project, let's say, in your mind.
Yep.
Now there's 30 facets that come off that diamond: change leadership, people management, conflict, project leadership, budgeting, whatever it is. Then you'll have another diamond, another situation, project or role you've been involved in. So if you can have top of mind 4, 5, 6 of these diamonds, therefore when you're asked a question, bam, you can go straight to them and peel off one of those facets that meets the needs of the employer. But the real key here is using a formula: context, action, result. So context, talk about what the problem is.
Yep.
Action, what you did to solve the problem, and result. And really make sure you talk about a great positive result, because they want a narrative, they want a story. So context, action, result, or CAR helps you do that.
Well, again, a fantastic tip in that regard. And I love the diamond metaphor, because good diamonds at least are developed under pressure. And it certainly is a pressure situation. Now, I love your story about, somebody asks you the question and your answer is no. Is it? Look, in most situations, honestly, Tom, honesty is the best policy. If we get caught on the hop, should you, if they say, do you have any experience in this area? And honestly, if we don't, is it better to confess that rather than try and make something up when it's obvious to everybody in the room, including yourself, that you're just fudging it here? What would be your advice?
Well, the first thing I would say is practice.
Okay.
Right? Practice. So before the interview, family member, friend, mirror, whatever, just do practice. Because what happens with my example of change management, I got in the car, drove home, and suddenly they were all there. I was just too stupid to do the prep beforehand. That's on me. So, but sometimes genuinely, even with all the prep in the world, there won't be examples. So for me personally, I'll just talk about the theory. I wouldn't necessarily say I don't have any experience, but I talk about the theory of change management and my understanding of change leadership and all that sort of stuff, and just try and tie it together as a general overview. Then as you do that, you'll start to think of actually instances where you have done it.
Okay.
And so I know myself, I've been in a position where I was like, oh no. So I just started sort of unraveling it in my own mind verbally.
Stalling for time in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah. And then suddenly, bam, 3, 4, 5 instances where I had been involved popped into my mind. And now I could talk with authority about them. So really my point here is you can take a 0 out of 5 to at least a 2. Still not great, but, ideally drag it to a 3. And then suddenly you come up with all these instances where you've been involved in it that will pop up as you're doing it, and even drag it to a 4.
Okay.
So you want to be honest and ethical, 100%, absolutely.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's a way you can sort of unpack your mind while you're on the go.
So just finally on this one, Tom, if in a behavioural interviewing situation, if they say, tell me about an example where I don't have one, is always the wrong answer. Would that be a blanket statement? No, I don't have any. That is always the wrong thing to say in an interview. You've just made the interviewer's job much easier. You are no longer on the candidates list. Is that fair enough?
Well, see, this is the thing. If they're wanting this as one of the competencies and you're 0 out of 5 on it, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to work a lot harder and be a lot better across all the other areas.
Yeah. No, certainly. Some fantastic advice, as always. Plenty more of that available at cv.co.nz. Thank you so much for the work that you do and your generosity in sharing your wisdom acquired over many years, Tom. Thank you so much for your time today.
A real privilege, mate. God bless. Have a great day.